country, for example, China, that maybe there was one of their nationalists in another country, for example, the U.S., if they considered a thorn in their side or a terrorist, whatever. So would it be internationally acceptable for them to launch a drone against that person in the U.S. and that not be considered an act of war?
Well, the U.S. government would certainly consider it an act of war, and I think the American people would consider it an act of war as well. But this is precisely what we're doing on a pretty regular basis in other countries. Yeah. Let's see. If I could see a show of hands of people who might want to say something, comment, suggestions. Great, so we'll take a round here. Let's start.
I just have a quick question. I thought we were still making, what do you call it? Landmines. I thought we were still making them here in this country.
Yes, and selling them overseas, but not using them.
Okay.
And by the way, if anybody during this discussion wants to come up and buy a book, please feel free to do it. And we'll just keep talking, and then I can sign them afterwards. So, yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Pakistan is one of the most corrupt countries in the world. It gets high ratings, number one or number two. So I'm thinking that the U.S. must be buying the leaders off in some fashion. So I was wondering, do you know how much they are buying them off by, or?
It's a very complicated.
The question?
Oh, the question was, Pakistan's a very corrupt country and the U.S. must be buying off leaders. That certainly was happening. In fact, the WikiLeaks cables show that in the beginning, the Prime Minister said to the U.S. ambassador at the time, Ann Patterson, that it was okay to do these drones. You go ahead and do it. We'll pretend we're against it. And in fact, we'll complain about it at the National Assembly, but, go ahead and do what you have to do. And so, yes, that was an example of the U.S. paying off the leaders. But it turns out that so many people in Pakistan are so appalled at the violation of national sovereignty, at the killing of innocent people, that it's become untenable for the government to give a wink and a nod to the United States. And they've had to come out. They've been forced to come out against the U.S. There are lots of issues involved. In fact, this week there are going to be high-level discussions between the head of the CIA and the head of Pakistani intelligence. And the U.S. is indeed using money to buy off, to try to win support from the Pakistani government when the Pakistan opening up the U.S. bases that it closed, all kinds of things like that. But I think when you have 97% of your population saying they don't like something, it's really hard to continue to buy off officials. Yes?
What companies make drones?
The drones are made by every single major weapons manufacturer. They're making some part of the drone. They might be making the sensitive cameras that are used in the drone. They might be making the missiles and other weapons that are fired from the drones. The parts are being spread out all over. And the weapons manufacturers love to do that because then they can get more Congress people in their pockets. General Atomics in Southern California is the one making the Predator and the Reaper drones. But Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, they're all involved in the drones. The Secretary of Defense, Leon Panetta, has called it the only game in town, and every one of these companies wants a piece of the action.
Does the recent order of the hundreds of new planes from Boeing have anything to do with the drone program?
Can somebody answer that? A recent program of buying hundreds of planes from Boeing?
We
have
have
to
a
do
Boeing
with
researcher guy, but he's not here tonight.
Well, there are no new manned planes being commissioned by the military. They're all unmanned systems, all of the new ones.
Because this just came out within the last week or two that hundreds of planes are now on the books to be ordered. And then I had a question. Is it just me who questions whether we're fighting terrorism or whether we're protecting the corporate interests in the Mideast, the oil.
Is it only this one woman who thinks that?
Because I'm getting tired of calling it terrorism. I don't think it's terrorism.
It's terrorism.
Well,
Corporatism.
I mean, it's corporatism, and there's a couple of things happening. I mean, we are creating enemies all the time, and part of the way we are creating enemies is killing people with this kind of terrorist weapon. And we are killing people faster, creating more enemies faster than we can kill them. And this is part of keeping war going, and it's part of keeping war profits going. On the other hand, there are also, it is related to the issue of controlling other people's resources, controlling other people's countries. We certainly would never invaded Iraq if it wasn't for oil, and now we see finally the US companies getting their chance to go in there. And we also see the drones are being bought by companies. And they are buying those drones to use in other countries like Nigeria to protect their resources from the local people. So yes, you're not the only one thinking this.
I think this has been going on since the Monroe Doctrine was
Yeah.
initiated. And we need to really change our government. Is what we need to do.
But you know, our government has been reined in other times when people rose up, when they forced the Congress to do something about this. And so we see periodically that there have been changes. And it just seems at this point in our history, we are not strong enough as a movement because so much of our movement is tied at the hip with the Democratic Party. And when it's a Democrat in power, they don't want to criticize. And so you don't get the congressional people who might be more sensitive to this issue. They don't take the kind of reins that they have in the past and try to clean things up.
Yes. Yes, Sierra Club member coined this. It was Mitnick, and I added to that and suggested that we said, vote Mitnick, dummy, as a sign for the streets.
You lost me there.
M-I-T-T,
Yeah.
wit. Mitnick.
Midway.
Mitnick. That was one point.
Yeah.
The second point is, why are we paying our fucking taxes to the government? To lose our homes? We're losing our homes.
Yeah, well, that's a tough one because if you don't pay, they come after you. And also, we do want to have schools and roads and fire departments and things like that.
All
So
of it's coming down.
yeah, it's very difficult. Yeah.
There's one thing that kind of sunk in a long time ago, but I haven't heard it mentioned a lot. We're fighting over the budget. We keep saying, where's our peace dividend?
Yes. Yeah.
Where's the peace dividend?
Right.
Anybody in the general public kind of remembers that.
Yes. We never got our peace dividend, and I think we are entitled to our peace dividend, but now, of course, we owe trillions of dollars from these wars. And you pay for the wars long after they are over. And in fact, the economists, Joseph Stiglitz and Linda Bilmes, they have done some amazing work on the cost of war, and they say that we are paying the highest price for the Vietnam War right now, as the Vietnam veterans get older and need more health care. And so we are going to be paying the costs of these wars now, the Iraq and Afghanistan. We're going to see the highest costs in 2040. So we are gifting this to our children and our grandchildren.
Over and over.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I really believe, I don't know how you feel about this, but I think,
Speak a little louder.
I think that we're actually causing this on purpose, killing innocents on purpose to extend war forever.
Yes.
Oh, because we'll be attacked, and there you go.
Yeah. Well, it sure looks like that. Any discussion here of what can be done, what you want your community to do?
Could you, start a movement to everybody stop paying taxes? If we had millions and millions of us stop.
Don't answer
know.
that.
You know, we tried that at Code Pink in my group, and we couldn't get a lot of people to do it because they have mortgages and they have salaries, and the government could come in and garnish your wages and all of that.
But one thing we didn't talk about, and that's, you'll see there's a place on that sign-up sheet, is we're asking for locals to pass resolutions in your local area to say to your community that we don't want drones. There's no reason for a community this small to have drone surveillance. You all know each other practically, I'm sure. And so there should be no reason that your city council or your county supervisor shouldn't be able to pass a resolution saying, we don't want to spend up to $40 million of our tax dollars to get a drone in here to do what? To surveil the people like us. That's who they'll be.
So do you want to talk about what's going on locally?
I think we have them, yeah.
We have them at the Canadian-US border.
Yeah. We have U.S. drones. They're still using.
You're all veterans of our city council ordinances that we've had passed here for the last 8, 9, 10 years. Everything from the Patriot Act, to bring the troops home, to hands off Iran, and most of you, I think, have signed on to the petition to bring our war dollars home. That's been supported by our city council in general. I think they didn't ask for the petition, but I think this is going to help them. And we've actually we wanted one co-sponsor. We got 2, so we're in good shape. But it'll come up for a vote, like I say, the end of August. What we've been in discussion for here recently at a recent Green meeting. And with some other meeting, with the Veterans for Peace meeting, and with Janet Marino as well, of Walk for Peace and Justice, to get a no drone ordinance passed in Bellingham. So in the next 2 or 3 months, you know, when things let up a little bit from the summer, we're going to try and work on that. And we would really like your support when that happens. We think it's crucial. It's one of these things that we have to be proactive about. We have to be ahead of the game on this thing because, like Medea was saying, the technology far surpasses what we've been doing with this issue. And I think if we get something going right here in Bellingham, I think we have a good chance of passing. So.
And the first community that does pass the resolution gets to win one of these nice people. Just one.
Hey, Gene?
Just one.
I got a question. Is that going to be just in the airspace in Bellingham?
That's a good question.
Because, you know, we've got them in Whatcom County. We're a border town.
That's right. This is a big issue.
And, you know, we got the sheriff, and, you know, the sheriff is in the pocket of Homeland Security.
Well, can I just, there was just a hearing on Capitol Hill about this. The thing is that right now, Homeland Security does not have jurisdiction over local surveillance on drones. There are groups, mostly from the right, that are trying to push Homeland Security to take control over the drones out of the hands of the FAA, which is a very transparent government agency, whereas Homeland Security is very secretive. So what they would like to do is have Homeland Security take jurisdiction over the drones, but Homeland Security at this point does not want to do that because they will be taking over what the FBI traditionally does. Surveils local, you know, inside the country, the people. So at this point, they're not supposed to use those to surveil here.
In the city.
In anywhere, it should be all cameras should be pointing towards either the border fences or that way.
Okay.
So, but you're right. How long does it take till they start turning this way?
And the deal is, it would be a start. This is something we can do now.
Right.
You know, it would be Bellingham, and then we would. Who knows?
You have to take it to the county council.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, and in the book I talk about how useless these drones are on the borders. Because, you know, this is really an industry, subsidizing an industry. Because even the government's own study of the use of the drones at the border, if indeed their role is supposed to be to catch illegal immigrants and drugs being smuggled, they don't do a very good job. In fact, they have been shown to be about 10 times more expensive than using just a Cessna plane. So really, it's very hard to continue to justify the border use of drones.
Yes, I don't know how many of you have noticed this, but Bellingham is having helicopters fly over
Oh,
the
yeah.
city
Yeah.
Oh,
at
yeah.
a very low level.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The other day in the south side, I saw three apparently military. They had some sort of device that stuck out on a rod in front of the helicopters, at least 10 feet, maybe more.
I think that was because of the bank robbery.
They were looking for a
Oh, okay.
robber on a
Okay.
bicycle.
But they were down at 75, they were down at 75 feet, less than 100.
So maybe we'll take one or two more comments. Anybody else have? So let's take these two.
If it takes $1,000 and a computer hacker, have there been any known accounts of hackers taking down drones in any country in the world?
Yes, there have been a number of different accounts of drones either being shot down because they're actually quite easy to shoot down, and being hacked into, as was the case of Iran and there are people in the hacker community in the United States who are saying, bring them on, you know, we're ready for these drones. And there are people in the neocon world like Charles Krauthammer who are saying, rifles in the air, America, the first American to shoot down a drone over his house will be a folk hero. So there's a lot of people out there who feel maybe similar sentiments, but have different kinds of strategies of how they want to deal with this. I myself will go for the preventive one.
Are you connected with the peace group in our anti-drone group in Pakistan?
Yes, I mean, it's the anti-drone group is like the whole Pakistani community. We are working with
people who are going to make the arrangements. You're probably going to the northwest, or?
we are going to have a huge march. I mean, we're working with the
She's saying like.
We're working with the tribal elders, we're working with women's organizations, we're working with human rights groups, we're working with Imran Khan, who is the famous cricket player who now is the most popular person in Pakistan. They are really anxious for us to come there, and it's going to be very impactful for the Pakistani people.
Which city are you going to have it? Are you going to have it in the whole country?
We're trying to go to Miram Shah, the capital of Waziristan.
What kind of safety precautions are there going to be? Because that is really going right in the middle of lots of things. And so are there safety precautions that your group is taking to protect you? You know, to protect you and the marching people?
Yeah, there are a lot of people in Pakistan who are working on that. When we had a call of potential people with our Pakistani friends, and one American asked, well, are there people in Pakistan who would not be happy with us coming and focusing on the drones? He thought for a while, and then he said, CIA.
That's really,
and so our protection there is to be totally open about this, going to our Congress people and saying we're going, a bunch of peaceful Americans, and I think that's our best protection.
I'm running for Congress.
Who are you?
I'm Michael Point. And oddly enough, I'm an Occupy Everett person. I'm actually going to be the first person to be elected to Congress from Occupy if I win. But I've been noticing something since the Occupy started, is that when you get out in the tent and you talk to people, you can't tell what their ideology is. I've talked to Tea Party people, I've talked to socialists about what affects them, the issues. And I found this to be true. When you talk to people one-on-one, you can clear up the facts and you can bring them together. Regardless of what happens with my election, I am going to get a forum going between Tea Party and Occupy people, people on both sides of the spectrum, in a forum. I've talked with a libertarian Republican about this, who's running for office, and that's what we're going to do. That's the solution. We need to put people in Congress like me, like you, who won't take the bribes, who will actually do what the people want, and who will keep them informed. If I get elected, everybody here will hear from me continually on what is happening, and it will be like a GA as far as I'm concerned. That's what we need to do in this country.
Well, it's great that you're running for office, and more people should run for office, and I believe in the broadest coalitions that we can make. I was speaking the other night, and I had said that we were working with some very conservative groups, my group Code Pink and the Cato Institute, Koch brothers, together in saying, pushing progressive Congress people and conservative ones to get legislation saying no federal government money should go to local law enforcement for buying drones, and no drones can be used to spy on American citizens without a warrant. And somebody criticized me and said, we don't want to work with those conservative people, we don't believe in their ideology. And I said, well, I think we need really broad coalitions. Now, we can build a coalition that includes the groups that are going to take the brunt of this kind of drone spying, and that would be African Americans, immigrants, people in the Occupy and peace movements, environmentalists. But we should also reach out to people who call themselves libertarians or whatever they call themselves, but are concerned about personal privacy issues. So I agree with you totally. And I saw a couple of other hands, and then we should wrap this up. So let's see, these two women have.
I'm concerned, since we don't see pictures of dead children in Pakistan, whether we will see anything about your project over there.
It's a good question, and we never know when we undertake these things, but one of the things that we're doing is inviting journalists to come along with us, and we know that inside Pakistan there are a lot of American journalists and TV crews there, and we are notifying them about this. We also have a couple of people who signed up for the trip who want to do a hunger strike in front of the U.S. Embassy there. And I think that will be very impactful as well. So we're just hoping that it will build and that there will be so much interest in it inside Pakistan that it will force the American press to pay attention to it.
Is it worthwhile, like, writing to CNN and MSNBC and saying, hey, we want to hear about what happens over there?
Well, that's a great idea, and maybe we could do that on some kind of national scale before the group is going, to have people call in and get everybody who's going on the trip to get their friends and relatives to call in. That's a great suggestion.
What's the date you're going?
September 21st. It's International Peace Day. And we are also going to ask people to do solidarity actions to commemorate the innocent victims of the drone strikes on that Sunday, September 23rd. So that's also a way to try to get some local press about it.
I was just going to say, to be political, I think it's very important to vote for people who are peace candidates. Jill Stein, the Green Party, I'm plugging her here because she believes in nonviolence. Rick Lorison is supported by drone manufacturers. I've called his office, asked how much money. I've never been told how much. So why would people voting against their conscience? That bothers me, and how do we stop that? To me, why are we voting for these people that are known drone killers?
Yeah. Yes.
With regards to Pakistan,